Today, I want you to have courage. Today, I want you to have the courage to deal with reality. Now, what am I saying that for? I just recently went on a sales process audit. One of the things that I've been preaching long and hard about is making sure that if you want sales excellence, that you need to build a predictable and repeatable sales process. So whenever I get called in to help a company that's either shrinking or they're flat and they want to see exponential growth, is the first thing I need to do is I have to observe the process that they're using, right? See what they're doing, because that way, once I see what they're doing, then I can start working on process improvement. So during my time with this one company where I was doing a sales audit, I was out with a sales rep who was on a very, very big appointment. It was very exciting. Before we got there, I was told that this was a done deal. And then during the presentation, right, the customer, the decision maker, that we needed them to say yes to our solution. That person, while the rep was talking, was doing this visually. Looking at their watch, looking over their head, distracted. That person was not engaged in the conversation. And so the rep that I was observing, what that rep did was just ignore all those signals. It was clearly obvious that that person, for whatever reason, was not engaged in what we were talking about. And I know intuitively that that person, that the rep, recognized that. I think sometimes you do that too. You recognize that the person's not interested in what you're talking about at that point in time. Right? Another thing that you might hear when somebody's not interested is, especially on the phone, for you people in phone sales or using the phone to communicate with somebody, and you hear, As you're talking, you can feel them rushing you, or you can feel them, you ask them a question and they're distant and they're not engaged. You can hear the lack of sincerity in their voice. So most people ignore, just like that one rep, ignore these wonderful sensory inputs that we have, that we can utilize. But instead of ignoring them, what I want you to do is have the courage to face them. Have the courage to recognize them. And by the way, it's respectful to your customer. So what do I mean by that? So if you see somebody doing all those visual cues where they're not interested, looking at their watch or looking over your shoulder or being distracted, or they're making those noises on the phone where you know that they're not engaged, all I want you to do, and if it's a visual sign, I want you to say, John, it looks to me like, for whatever reason, there's something else on your mind right now, and this might not be the appropriate time for have this conversation. Would it be better for us to do this at a more appropriate time? Now, you see, you come from a place of selflessness, right? You're not judging, you're not annoyed, you're not criticizing, nothing. What you're doing is selflessly saying to that person, I feel this. You're not engaged. And now, when you do that to the person, they will do one of two things. They will absolutely appreciate the fact that you've recognized this, and then they will say, yeah, thank you so much. There is something else I need to address. Why don't we set this up? That's a win for you. It's a win for you because now number one, they appreciate you as a human being, but number two, when you sit down and talk with them, they'll be appreciative of you, let them off the hook, and then you'll have their conscious attention, which is what you need anyway for you to move your process, your sale along. Number two, this happens all the time when I use this particular language pattern, when I have the courage to recognize they're not interested, is they actually snap back in the conversation. They actually say, I'm sorry, my mind was someplace else, but this is important to me. No, I do want to talk right now, and let's talk. Now what have you done? You won again. You won again because you refocused them into the conversation. Their mind isn't drifting. So the bottom line is this. In sales, you have to use your sensory acuity. You have to use your eyes and visually use what you're seeing. You have to use what you're hearing. You have to use what you're feeling, but then you have to communicate it and look selflessly to help that person in whatever it is that they need help with. So I hope that helps. Have the courage to recognize what's going on and adapt. Flexibility is the key to sales. We'll talk to you soon.